What's up, YouTube? This is Bison X79. Guys, today I'm coming to you with a brand new deck profile for the September 2018 Banlist. As you can see today, we're going to be doing Domain Monarchs. Now, since the release of Soul Fusion and YCS Niagara this past weekend, we're getting a better idea of what the meta is going to be looking like. And I'm going to just come out and say it. This deck is poison to the current meta. It can shut down practically anything the meta decks do, and it will beat them. Alright, with that being said, I'm getting right into this. Alright, and the first card we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 copies of Edia, the Heavenly Squire. Alright, if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon 1 monster with 800 attack, 1000 defense from the deck in defense position. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Monarch spell traps and add it back to your hand, which is an amazing late game effect for this deck to have. Alright. Now the main card you're going to be summoning off of Edia's effect is one of the 3 copies of Eidos, the Underworld Squire. Now whenever this card is... if this card is normal or special summon, you can get 1 tribute summon in addition to your normal summon for the turn. Awesome. Alright, so this allows you to actually build your field with tribute fodder and then get that important tribute summon going. Okay, and while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish it and special summon 1 monster with 800 attack when that's in defense from the graveyard in defense position. Alright, so by banishing Eidos from the graveyard, you can basically resurrect Edia onto the field. She comes back in defense position, and then her effects can resolve, which is going to fetch you another Eidos from your deck. This is primarily the main tribute engine that you're going to be using in this deck to get out your big monsters, or your medium level monsters as well. Primary reason why both cards are at 3 because you want to see them. There are a few spells to support Edia a little bit better, so you can see her for a lot more quicker. Alright. For the level 6, the mid-level monsters, I'm going to start off with Caius, the Shadow Monarch. Alright, when this card is tribute summon, you can target 1 card in the field and banish it. If that card that you banish happens to be a darker tribute monster, your opponent gets hit with 1,000 points of damage. So yeah, in going for game, you can actually just tribute summon this card, target itself, banish it, your opponent gets hit with 1,000 points of damage, and you can win the game that way. So it's a great burn effect. It helps going into time as well, so that's why it's here. Okay, now you have Karaz, the Light Monarch. Okay, so when Karaz is normal or special summon, you can target and pop up to 2 cards on the field. The player that controls the destroyed cards can draw 1 card for each of those destroyed cards. Okay, so with that being said, you can actually summon this guy out, pop 2 of your own cards that you don't need, and then get 2 free cards from your deck. That's pretty fair. Downside of this card, it can't attack the same turn it uses its effect. Excuse me. But I do have other cards in my deck that can help mitigate this problem. So now I also run 1 copy of Majesty's Fiend. Alright, then this card cannot be special summoned. I know it kind of sucks, but because it has 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense, it does fit into the Monarch category, which means it's searchable from the deck with Return of the Monarchs, and you can even get it back from the graveyard to your hand by using Erebus, which is awesome. Alright, and the cool thing about it is that it's continuous effect while it's on the field. Monster effects cannot be activated. What does that mean? That means monster effects can't be activated on the field, in the hand, in the graveyard, or even when they're banished. No monster effects. It simplifies the game state so well. And this is what really breaks a lot of decks. Without the ability to utilize their effects, a lot of decks are crippled. Alright. Of course, I have 1 copy of Vanity's Fiend. Alright, yes, it can't be special summoned. And yes, it doesn't fit into the Monarch battle stat range with 2,400 attack, 1,000 defense. It has 1,200 defense, and cannot be. But while it's face up in the field, this continuous effect is basically this. Both players cannot special summon, which basically means if you have Domain up with this card in the field, Domain covers the extra deck, this card covers the rest. Your opponent's not special summoning from the hand, from the graveyard, or from the main deck. Or from the banish on either. So, it's very important to have this card at 1. Alright, so for the level 8 monsters. Now, one thing I want to say about the level 8 monsters before I go on is that all the level 8 monsters have an effect where you can actually tribute summon it by tributing a tribute summoned monster. Which is actually pretty cool because then you don't have to have multiple monsters on the field to get this guy out. Now, Mega Caius, I like to call him Mega Caius. If it's tribute summoned, you can target and banish one card on the field and hit your opponent for 1,000 points of damage. Now, if that card you banish happens to be, say, a Dark Tribute monster, that's where fun stuff really starts. Basically, you get to banish all cards with the same name from the hand, main deck, extra deck, and graveyard. So let's just turn on and say you have Escalation in the Monarchs, and you manage to tribute summon Mega Caius out onto the field, and your opponent just happens to have, I don't know what, Thunder Dragon Colossus. You could target that. It gets banished. Your opponent loses 1,000 life points, and then they also lose any other copies of Thunder Dragon Colossus that's in their extra deck. Now, another cool thing about the Mega Monarchs is that if they are tribute summoned using a monster with the same attribute as themselves, they get an additional effect. And in Mega Caius' effect, you can actually target 2 cards and not just 1, which is actually very awesome. So, mass banishing field effects here. Now we have Aether, the Heavenly Monarch. Okay, now she's on the current limited list, and for good reason. With Aether, you can tribute summon this monster during your opponent's turn by banishing a Monarch spell and trap from your graveyard. If this card is tribute summoned, you can send 2 Monarch spells and traps from the deck to the graveyard to special summon 1 monster with 2,400 or more attack and 1,000 defense. But it goes back to the hand during the end phase. So, it's a good way to get Karaz out of your deck, to pop something to get extra draws. And then Karaz comes back to your hand. You don't really want to have Karaz in your hand. You want to keep him in your main deck because of Aether's effect. So, but she is very good in the hand. I don't see her coming off the list anytime soon, though. Alright. 3 copies of Erebus is next. Erebus, he's the big daddy of the deck. If he's tribute summoned, you can send 2 Monarch or spells or traps to the graveyard to basically spin a card back to your opponent's deck from the field, graveyard, or hand, which is actually pretty cool. Typically, you'd be wanting to take problematic monsters off the field, like Thunder Dragon Colossus or even Thunder Dragon Titan, just to be able to do things with it. Alright, while this card is in the graveyard, it has a quick effect where you can discard a Monarch spell trap from your hand and basically get back another monster with 2,400 or more attack and 1,000 defense back to your hand. So this is a great way to recycle your Majesty's Fiend if it ever does get sent to the graveyard. Alright, and the last Mega Monarch is going to be Thestalos the Mega Monarch. Alright, now when this guy is tribute summoned, you can look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card from their hand. If the card you discarded was a monster, you get to burn your opponent's life points for damage equal to the discarded monster's level times 200. Now, if you manage to tribute summon this using a fire tribute monster, you get to burn your opponent for an extra 1,000 points of damage. Alright. There are monsters out there there are decks that use fire tribute monsters. I can look at Sky Striker, Kagari. Just saying. Alright. Getting a peek at your opponent's hand is very important because then at least you'll be able to see what they're planning and you'll be able to set up your plays a little bit more accordingly. Okay, for the spells. 2 copies of Call by the Grave. Alright. Now, Call by the Grave basically banishes a monster from the graveyard, and then your opponent is... Well, actually, both players are prevented from using that monster's effects for the rest of the turn. Alright, this card was put at 2 primarily to help push the Thunder Dragon, and Danger R-types, because since they are very grave effect dependent. Alright. One cool card that I like to have in there is called, there's 2 copies of Celestial Observatory. Basically allows you to take a level 6 monster from your hand or on the field and place it at the bottom of your deck. And then you have to draw 2 cards. So, this card, in combination with Aether summoning Karaz, can net you maybe 4 draws in a turn. Summon out Aether, and then you use Aether's effect, pitch 2 Monarch spells and traps to the graveyard, special summon out Karaz. Karaz pops 2 cards you don't need on your field, you draw 2 cards. You happen to have Celestial Observatory in your hand before all this happened, you can drop Celestial Observatory, send Karaz back to your main deck, and then draw another 2 cards. Very awesome play. By the off chance you draw into your Karaz and you don't want it in your hand, you can use this card to get it back in your deck. So, this card has very good utility. That's why it's in this at 2. 3 copies of Domain of the True Monarchs. Alright, while this card's in the field, you don't have any cards in your extra deck, and you control a Tribute Summon monster, your opponent's not special summoning anything from their extra deck. Whenever your Tribute Summon monsters attack, they gain 800 points during damage calculation, which is actually pretty cool. And that happens when they battle monsters, not during direct attacks, though. And you can also lower the levels of a monster with 2000 attack, 1000 defense by 2 to help you get on the field a little bit quicker. Very good utilitarian card. Alright. March of the Monarchs. Basically, while this card's face up in the field, your Tribute Summon monsters cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. So basically, this card with Domain and either of the Fiend cards is basically game. Yeah. Okay. 1 copy of 1 for 1 because you want to be able to send a card you can't really use right away to the graveyard to get your Edia onto the field. And of course that sets her effect off, which will get you your tribute fodder onto the field even quicker. Pantheon is a Monarch. You pitch a Monarch spell trap from your hand to your graveyard to draw 2 cards. While it's in the graveyard, you banish it, reveal 3 Monarch spell or trap cards from your deck. Your opponent picks 1 to add to your hand. The others are shuffled back in your deck. And you can do both effects in 1 turn. Alright. Reinforcement of Army. Again, another way to get to Edia. To get your plays going. I run 1 copy of Restoration in the Monarchs. Basically because it allows you to special summon a monster with 2400 or more attack, 1000 defense, back to the field in defense position, and that particular monster that's equipped with this card counts as 2 tributes. So it's a great way to get massive amount of tribute fodder onto the field. I run 2 copies of Return of the Monarchs because this is what really adds the consistency to the deck. Every time you tribute summon, you're allowed to search out a monster with 2400 or more attack points and 1000 defense. I run 2 copies of Shared Ride in this, and this is the 1 card that really helps with decks that like to search a lot, because as they search, you can chain this card to one of their searches, and you can start adding, not adding, but drawing cards every time they add cards to their hand. So, again, Sky Strikers and Gokis, this is a very good card to have. Alright. And of course you have 3 copies of Tenacity of the Monarch, basically because this can search out any of your Monarch spells or traps out of your deck ASAP. So it needs to be at 3. All you have to do is reveal 1 monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense, and you can go. And of course, last but not least, you can't run a Monarch deck without the Monarch Stormforth. This card allows you to utilize your opponent's monsters for tribute summons without even targeting them. So all in all, it's a damn good card to have. Also, because it's not targeting, I don't see this card coming off the list either, so. Alright, Escalation of the Monarch. Mentioned this before, it allows you to tribute summon during your opponent's turn, so this allows you to be able to bring out your Monarchs and basically disrupt your opponent's plays with their effects. Very key card. It's a Monarch spell and trap name, so you can utilize it with a lot of different effects in this deck, so awesome to have. And of course, in case you don't have Majesty's Fiend on the field, you can utilize the Monarch's Erupt, which basically shuts down all on-field monster effects that aren't tribute summon, which is pretty huge. And last but not least, I have one copy of the Prime Monarch. While it's in the field, you can actually recycle up to 2 Monarch spell traps back from your graveyard to your deck to draw a card. And while it's in your graveyard, you can banish another Monarch spell and trap in order to special summon it as tribute fodder in a pinch. This is awesome. Alright, so guys, that's it for my deck profile. Like I said before, this deck is pure poison for the current meta. It's a great anti-rogue strategy to really give other players problems. If you like this deck, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content on this channel like this, make sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads I have. Guys, check out my discussion tab on my main page so you don't miss any events I'm planning for you guys. And until next time, peace.